So the goal now is to make a shop press. I don't have unlimited space in my shop, so I can't have or at least I don't want to have one of those big tall freestanding ones. And most of the press jobs that I do aren't that big. Well, obviously I don't do anything now. I use the vise if I really need to press something or hammer on it. But I think the biggest project I can quickly think of that I might want to do is push new bushings into the springs on my truck. And the springs on the truck are 3 inches wide, so you got a 3-inch push. So as long as you got a 6-inch throat, you can push 3 inches pretty easily. Anyway, 3-inch throat I guess would work if you had the right bushing for it. No, it'd have to be 6-inch. Regardless, my goal is to build something that I can just sit here on the workbench, and then when I'm done with it, I'll carry it outside, or I'll put it underneath the bench, or I'll put it somewhere out of the way. And as always with my projects, the goal is that it's got to be cheap. So I have an extensive collection of scrap iron that I've accumulated over the years underneath the workbench. I'm going to just grab the camera and briefly move here so you can possibly see. So that's the small bits of iron. The big stuff is outside. And out of that collection, I rounded up this piece here, which in a previous life was the front end of obviously a home-built front end loader mount for a tractor. I found this piece of 3-inch by 4-inch angle iron. Came out of a cultivator that I tore apart. This channel iron is from that same front end loader mount. I've got two 20-ton jacks like that one right there, and I've got a whole pail full of broken springs. You can see the springs down on the other end. So the concept, I'm just making sure the camera's right here. Okay, the concept is that the channel iron will be the side supports. They'll stand upright, one on each side if they're like this. 2 pieces of channel iron. The bottom of the press will be 2 pieces of this massive chunk of angle iron, and they'll be separated. So there'll be angle iron here, another angle iron over here, and the press will operate between the 2 pieces of angle iron. These will be spaced apart by the width of that channel iron, so it gives me 3-inch throat, which is plenty. If I ever push a 2-inch bushing, I think that would be the biggest I'll ever push. Most of the time it's going to be 1/2 inch or sub 1 inch stuff anyway. The jacks, hold on here. The jacks will sit up in the air. They'll press against the bottom of this massive chunk of I-beam, and so then they'll travel down as they press. And I said jacks because my original idea was to use a single jack in the center of this, which is all I've ever seen in a press. But then I got thinking, I've got a matched set of these. There's no reason why for a massive press job I couldn't space 2 jacks on the same plate, so one on either side of this piece of I-beam, pressing down with the die in the center. Now the last piece of the puzzle is what's going to travel up and down. And what I did this morning before I thought about taping this. These are 4 pieces of leaf spring that I just recently replaced in my truck. So they had quite a bit of arch to them, but I put them in the vise, put the 2 center ones in the vise to begin with, squeezed them together, welded up the side of them, and then put 2 more on the outside, squeezed them down and tacked them on. And the idea is that this will sit inside the frame. The hydraulic jack will sit on top of it like this. I'll put some kind of a perch on there for it. I'll put a couple of plates on the end so that it can slide up and down on the inside of the channel iron. And I might even get fancy and put some guides on there and all the rest. So that's the starting point. I will run a picture of the finished project so that you don't have to watch my whole damn video just to see what I end up building. That really frustrates me. Some of those guys, they build a video and there's all this activity and they're screwing around, and when they get all done, they got a left-hand threaded widget that you got no interest in whatsoever, but without watching to the end of it, you can't tell what the hell they're building. This is not going to be that way. And my goal along the way is to use up scrap that I've got. But if you're seriously considering doing something like this on your own, you need to lay out the stuff you've got on the bench and spend some time thinking about it. I actually went so far last night as to do a SketchUp drawing, and in the course of doing the model on SketchUp, I always come up with some extra things that I hadn't thought about, and ways that I can be more efficient in the project or make it better. I'm very visual, so looking at the thing on the screen in 3D really helps me understand how I could do a better job of building whatever it is that I'm in the process of building. So I got this piece extracted out of the loader frame. I don't know what the hell that thing's made of. It's took the teeth right off of my saw. Nothing will touch it other than the grinder. It's a hell of a good piece of iron. So it's going to end up in the air at the top of the press. I've got these circles out of a piece of, actually I think it's an old hydraulic cylinder that I had here. And then I milled them so they'll fit just nicely over the top of the jacks. The two jacks will sit roughly that far apart. The rings will go in underneath there like so. Like that. I'm just going to measure something here to see. Well, it won't matter. There'll be a third ring right absolutely dead center. So under normal use, we'll just use the single jack in the middle, but for extreme press I'll have the two. And then the plate of what they'll press on will be this bundle of leaf springs. So the whole arrangement, I don't know whether these will balance here or not. Probably not. This will be the assembly, and then there'll be this channel iron will form the sides. So this will be up at about eye level. This thing will be 8 inches or so off of the angle iron base. And as it works, the whole thing will come down. We'll put some kind of a pin right in the center of this leaf spring bundle so that I can make dies that will fit on for the actual press. And these springs will be located like so to retract the jacks by lifting this bundle back up. So there'll be one spring out at each end. That's it. I'm going to leave the camera on for a little while here because this piece of C-section has got a little bit of a bend in it, and I'm going to do a redneck straighten on the bend. Just about lost that over the back. Okay, so redneck straightening about to begin. Actually, I'm going to shut that off and re-aim it from the other end. Okay, this is the redneck straightening project. This channel iron has got a bend in the end of it. I don't know whether that was put in there deliberately or somebody overworked the loader and bent it, but it doesn't matter. I need the full length of it because I'm going to split this in half to get the uprights for the sides, and I could probably get by without using this. It's 4 feet to the bend, but those extra few inches will give me a couple of extra inches of throat when the press is all finished. So I'm going to do a redneck straighten on this because it's not that structural. It's all it's going to do is locate the top and keep it separate from the bottom, and I don't think this straightening will significantly weaken it. So when I'm doing these projects, I use my recip saw like a power jigsaw or power hacksaw. All I'm doing here is cutting the sides of the C so that it'll bend back up, and then I'll fill up the gap with weld once I'm all done. Got a little close to the end there. Hard on the blades, but I should buy a torch, but for all the fabricating I ever do, the cost of the gas contract would be prohibitive. So it cost me a few extra blades, a few grinding wheels, but it saves me a gas contract for a torch. Now if I've done that right, this should straighten out. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So what I've done there is just, I can see that it's not perfectly straight. You maybe can too, but it's close enough. Now I'm going to shut the camera off, clean this up a little bit, cut it in half, cut my two angle irons, and then we'll come back together somewhere where you can watch the welder when I start sticking all this together. So I went to radio silence for quite a while there. All you missed was a whole bunch of welding. I'll show you the highlights of what I've done. That's that piece of heavy I-beam. It's in across the top there. I was concerned that it wasn't going to have enough support just welded to the inside of the C-section. So I put these triangle plates in the corner. Spent some time with my squares. I'm not normally absolutely square in my fabrication, but this thing is pretty straight. The theory is that I'll press down in this opening, so I've got 3 inches clear here. I may put a piece of angle iron along the side here to reinforce this. I'll try it a few times and see how it comes. I'd like to keep this as open as possible, but another piece of angle, like 1 inch by quarter or something, wouldn't impede. I've got some little sockets made to go up underneath there. I'll show you. So this is the little socket that I built. I milled them so they're a nice snug fit on the top of these jacks. So it'll slide over the top there and just, it's a snug fit on the jack. This will be welded. There'll be one absolutely centered up here. Can I get an angle? There'll be one centered right there, and then 2 off to the side. I just happen to have 2 of these little 20-ton Harbor Freight jacks. I think 20 tons will be more than adequate for most of what I press, but the pair of them will give me 40 tons if I actually ever need it. The other thing you missed was the fabrication of this monstrosity. So there's 4 sections of old springs in the center, and then a piece of angle iron on each side. I can't touch the son of a gun right now because it's hotter than the hubs of hell right now, having just finished welding. But if you notice the special cuts on the end there, those are fabricated so that they'll straddle the channel, so that this piece over here will slide up and down inside the channel. Then I milled a socket so that it's got a 1-inch bore. It's got a big opening on the end here. The concept there is that any tools that I put in this will slip in the 1-inch bore and pin loosely. I don't think you want a pin in a press to be carrying the load. You want the load to come right on the flush surface there, so that the tool will sit up against the flat there and just be retained so it doesn't fall out and annoy me when I'm trying to get lined up. I don't know what the right tool would have been to recess that socket into my bundle here, and I could have just stuck it on the surface, but then it would have lost 2 inches out of my throat on the press, and I'm already concerned that I'm not going to have a deep enough throat. So I went to the bother of chopping a hole in the center and recessing the socket. And the trade-off, of course, is that this whole assembly now is somewhat weakened by the socket in the center, but I'm not really that concerned. On a straight press, when I'm pushing on that socket, I'll have a single jack in the middle here. I'll have to watch the first time I try pressing with 2. That's when it would be a problem, if it was ever going to be a problem. And there's a lot of meat in the welds there now, filling the gaps up, and I'll put some more on there before I'm done. So that's about it. The next shots I'll maybe have it finished, or I might get some shots of when I'm actually hanging the springs.